Welcome to the Armani Talks YouTube channel. I'm your host, Armani Talks. In this channel, I'm helping you improve your communication skills every Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome aboard and be sure to join me for future videos on public speaking, social skills, emotional intelligence, along with much more. This episode is going to delve into the world of social skills, and I'm going to give you a popular networking book, which surprisingly isn't that popular. I came to find out that this is an Amazon bestseller, but among a lot of people within my age group and up, they haven't heard of this book. Typically, when you're thinking of networking books, I'm sure the first thing that comes into your mind is How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And rightfully so. That book is great. It covers the nitty-gritty fundamentals of what it's like to be social and what it's like to be much more charismatic among other people. But this book that we're going to be discussing today is something that I believe is a little bit more advanced. And to take it even a level further, most of my subscribers on this channel are introverted entrepreneurs and engineers. So if you're someone that's introverted and someone who is extremely hard skills focused, this book is going to help you. But I don't want to give the book quite yet. If you want the book right now, it's going to be in the timestamp. But I want to give you a little bit of a buildup of how I got introduced to this book. Roughly around April 2019, I was helping one of my friends move. And as I was helping him move, I went to the trunk of his car, opened it. There were some suitcases, some trash bags filled with clothes. And there was this bright orange book. I couldn't quite see the name, but I just saw a bright orange book. I asked him what it was, and he couldn't believe that I never saw this orange book before. He said, "Armani, stop." And he gets the book and he jams it at my chest. And he says, "I need you to read this book." The reason that he was acting so jumpy was because basically what I have with Armani Talks, where I help engineers, entrepreneurs improve communication skills, he virtually does the same thing for teenagers. So he's like, "Listen, man, this book is going to help you out tremendously. Think in a different way. Read it ASAP." And once again, he jams it in my chest. I grab it. I put it in my car. I don't think much of it. The next week happens, and my friend calls me, and he's like, "Well, did you read it?" I was like, "No, not yet." He said, "Come on, man. Read it already. Trust me. It's worth it." This is normally a very chill friend, so the fact that he brought it up twice at this point got me thinking. I was like, okay, let me read it. Soon as I start reading it, I see exactly why he was being so jumpy for. The reason that it resonated with me was because this author breaks down social skills so an engineer can understand it. If you're an engineer who understands the internet, who understands Wi-Fi signals, who understands how networking works with the digital world, then he makes it extremely easy to understand social skills. Another reason that my friend was consistently telling me to read the book was because this is geared for a purpose. A lot of individuals, when they're networking, they're just doing it because they heard that, networking is a good thing. This book is written with an intention, especially if you're a business owner. So not only is it impactful for engineers, it's impactful if you own a consulting business, a content business, a real estate business, or any form of business for that matter, because at the core level, business is all about connections. Without further ado, the #1 networking book of all time, in my opinion, Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. Keith Ferrazzi is not only a businessman and not only a person who's worked in a corporate job, but he's also known as a professional networker. When I heard that about him, I was like, professional networker? Is that even a thing? As you read this book, you'll realize that it is a thing. There's certain phrasing that he uses that you may be doing, but you didn't know was an actual thing. Once we put words on ambiguous concepts, what happens is that we make it real for us. Before that, we were just winging it, But when the words are put on an act, that's when it becomes a formula. To give you an example of one of this, he talks about pinging someone. In the book, he separates a friend from an acquaintance. A friend is someone that you're super close with, while an acquaintance is someone that you have to ping every now and then. This is basically a person that helps you in some way, you help them in some way, and unlike a friend who you have to stay in touch with a good amount of times, with an acquaintance, 1 or 2 meetups or just a connection every now and then through text, through a Facebook message is more than enough. And this little connection request is known as a ping. When I thought about it like that, I was like, ping, huh? And this altered my thinking. Basically, nowadays, when I'm working on the Armani Talks business, I'm like, wait a minute, I haven't pinged this person in quite some time. Let me ping him. And it becomes just more of a structured act rather than me just winging it at this point. Another thing that I liked about this book is that he talks about the practical benefits of networking. It's one thing to say that, life is all about who you know rather than what you know. It's very easy to say a phrase like that. But if you're a technical person like me and someone that loves practicality, this is a very fluffy statement. It's about who you know. Okay, give me something more. And he breaks down networking with numbers, how him knowing certain people in different industries impacts his business, his bottom line, and his top line. So when you start reading the book, no longer is answering a DM, for example, or responding back to an email going to feel like busy work. It's going to feel like one of the high level acts in your day-to-day life, which moves the needle forward. And speaking of that, moving the needle forward, you can never move the needle forward if there's no purpose behind your moves. If there's no underlying why. Why are you doing what you're doing? What is the narrative behind your discipline? Some people want to be extremely great family men. Some people want to become extremely great in their industry. Some people want a little bit of everything. But there's a core why that you need. And Keith does a beautiful job in breaking down that why. Like, you gotta find it. Otherwise, networking is always going to feel like one of these acts that is not going to apply to your why. But once you create your why, now there's a thing that Keith calls purposeful networking, where every connection that you're building is sort of like you solving this massive puzzle. So he gets you thinking in networking in a different way. Now, a few of the cons regarding the book, I wouldn't say are big cons. It's just something that I've noticed from other people who read the book and didn't like it. The first one was where they say that Keith tells too many stories. I actually had a friend that I passed this book off to, and he's like, I didn't like it. Right? The author just tells too much stories. It seems like he's bragging about himself a lot. And that is an interpretation that someone can get. For me, on the other hand, I actually thought that was one of the strengths of the book. I don't like to be presented just, hey, here's what you do. I want to be presented with the story of how you got that insight in the first place. But that's not the situation for everyone. So if you're someone that wants a strict do this, and this sort of book, then Never Eat Alone is probably not going to be for you, because there are going to be a lot of stories. Another potential con of the book is that Keith is a little bit, I wouldn't say older, but he is not like, in his 20s or in his early 30s. So some of the tactics he proposes are rather old school. And one of the tactics is hosting dinner parties. I don't know about for you, but I'm not one of the guys that hosted a dinner party in who knows how long. It seems like a very old school concept. But once again, this con can be turned into a pro depending on how you look at it. An example is that, in this digital world that we're living in, a lot of people are like reading more ebooks than ever. A lot of people are listening to more audiobooks than ever. But there's still a market for paperback. I'm one of those guys. I always want a paperback over any other forms of book because I like to hold it. So it shows that even though that we're changing in a very digital world, a lot of things are changing. Introducing old school concepts into a digital world may be smart. Maybe Keith does have a point. Maybe you do want to host a dinner party because it sticks out from a lot of the other types of networking methods out there. So that's another thing that some people may not like. They may be like, this guy's a little too old school. Or some people may just be like, you know what, let me give this a try. It seems like something that's very unique. And the third potential con is that the book is very big, as you can tell. Some people don't have the patience to read a book that's that long. But once again, if it's resonating with you, you'll know within the first couple of pages. The first couple of pages, you're going to be like, where was this book my entire life? I wish I got this book when I was in kindergarten. Like, I'm not even joking. Because the whole social skills world then wouldn't be something that I'm figuring it out. I'm throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and being like, yes, this works, and this works. If I was given this book in kindergarten, then it's more so, oh, okay, this works. Let me put it into practice now. So you'll know if the book is resonating with you within the first couple of chapters. I highly recommend that you check it out, especially if you consider yourself an introverted entrepreneur or you consider yourself an awkward engineer. And even beyond that, if you're, let's say, a nurse or some sort of position where networking will help you in your career, check this book out. It's not a gender specific. You don't just need to be a guy to read it or just to be a girl to read it. You don't need to be old or young. Check it out, try to give it a chance, and from there, level up your networking skills. I'm going to drop the link for Never Eat Alone in the description box and in the pinned comment right on below. Grab your copy and leave a great review for Keith if you enjoyed the book. Thank you.